Event to the education and political part, Dr. Etherly, as what impact has the Black church made in education and in the political world?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us here this evening. Everything that happens within the Black community as it relates to civil rights, as it relates to politics, comes out of the church. Always have, as far back as I can remember. If you look at Dr. King when he was having his demonstrations, his nonviolent demonstrations, he would hold his meetings in the Baptist church, and he would organize in the Baptist church, and then after they'd sung, after they prayed, and after they had an inspiring message, they would go forward and start to do the things that was necessary in a non-violent way to bring about change in this country.
Right.
That has led to the betterment of some things. But I think sometimes we think we made it, that there's no need for us to protest verbally or march or whatever. We still have a long way to go. One of the weaknesses that we have, Doc, is that if you talk to young people nowadays, they don't know the history.
All right.
They have absolutely no idea what the older generation has gone through to get us to the point that we're at now. And I'm a member of the Seniors Club now.
Yeah.
I was young at one time, but now the gray hair tells me that I'm getting old now. Okay, I can't do what I used to do. One of the biggest disappointments I have is that the church needs to reach out, Doc. And we need to start teaching young people their history. Things just didn't happen. There was a reason why things happened. If you look at economic development in this time, Black folks used to own their hardware, their stores, their beauty supply stores. Okay, we was in barbershop business. We was in all kinds of business at one time. And that's all gone. The George Lowe's is gone. Had one of the largest cleaning facilities in the city, and he called him the spot doctor. I don't care what you got on your clothes. You took it to him, he could remove it and not mess up your clothes. But that's lost now, because he's passed on. So we need, the Black church need to reach out. We need to teach. Now, there's a scripture that says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing." Okay? Now, when it said teach, it's talking about the word, but also you have to teach people how to live in this world that we're living in today. So you've got to give them some knowledge so that they might be able to live in this world and spread the word about Jesus at the same time.
All right.
I often tell people, if a man's hungry, how can he hear if I don't feed him first? hear me. So in economic development, the black church needs to step up. Now, why do you say that? The black church is the freest institution that we have in any city in America. Now, maybe I better explain that because people looking at me like I might be crazy.
Yeah.
The black pastor is employed by black folks. We pay the salary. We pay the bills.
Amen.
The power is in the pew.
Amen.
He's the shepherd that leads us, but he's totally free to speak out on our behalf because he's not owned or controlled by no one. Black church. So now, if we do that, then black churches seems to me like that, and y'all have to forgive me because I probably won't get invited back, but that's all right.
Come on.
But y'all have to forgive me. See, the black churches need to come together and pool their resources in order to do economic development. I cannot expect other people to hire my people. I ought to be able to create some jobs to employ my own. And also some of theirs. But we don't do that. We sell what we got, but we do not talk about pooling what we have and build something.
All right.
At one time, there was not a supermarket inside the city limits of the city of Flint. If you was a minority, you had to go outside the city to do your grocery shopping. If you're a minority, you got to go outside to do your shopping for your clothes or whatever. That should not be.
Okay.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah.
You don't go. I'm gonna turn it back.
I want you to tell it all. I know that, but in the black church as a whole, in their progressing, they played a major part early in life, especially in the South, because black churches built colleges. Black churches came together, especially one particular city is Yazoo, Mississippi. This was put together, this city was built by a group of wealthy black men called the Woodsmen, who were part of the local church. These brethren, as Brother Woody was saying, they came together with their funds. There's a little rhyme that was going around Flint back in the 50s at Little Hat Pool Hall. And I used to hear the older brothers talking about the winos in the local city there in the area on the corner of Industrial and Lee Street. There was a place there called the Beer Hall. And it was right across the street from the building. But these winos would meet there every Friday morning and to get ready to buy them some wine. So they would ask each other, how much you got? Hartfield said, I got a nickel. And Willie would say, I say, well, how much you got, Willie? Willie said, well, I got a dime. And then I say, well, that's enough for us to get together and buy us some wine. Now, the theory of that is uniting your money together to accomplish something. And that's what's missing in our black church today. Each one of our churches have been blessed that we have become independent after such a meager beginning in the start. Our condition of mindset in the early or late 1800s and the early 1900s during slavery, we were limited in Flint where we could go, what time to go to work. It has been said that we couldn't enter the Buick factory unless we went through the foundry. Black folks had to come through a certain door just to go to work on the assembly line. And then if we were hired getting into the union area now, but I'm going to back up with it. That we have got to come together and continue. The churches did make a large contribution in building in years past, but we must come back to that so that we can continue flourishing in our community. Also, we want to talk about the impact of the church. We touched on economics and our mobilization. We touched on our worship and music. Worship and music. One thing about the black church, we specialize in music. We specialize in music. In the National Baptist Convention, there's a lady by the name of Lucy Campbell. She taught music. We have a Dr. Goodman today in our city who teaches music. Music was a part of our worship. After picking cotton all day for the massa and to be able to come back and revive ourselves, we sung a song even while we was working, Brother Brown. If we could sing a song, we could endure the agony of picking cotton. I'm so glad I never picked cotton. I sleep on cotton, I wear cotton. But I'm so glad I never picked cotton.
Amen.
But our black forefathers, our parents, had to pick cotton from sunup to sundown. But the church as a whole, in those days, they stuck together. Now we're going to move over, as I said earlier, what input did the union, the UAW, the United Auto Workers, how did we partnership with the churches?
Thank you so kindly, Reverend Farrell Carroll. Giving out the God who's ahead of my life. To these wonderful angels, each one of these guys are ministers. I'm the only guy up here that's actually not a minister, but I still believe in God. My part in the program is to tell you a little bit about the union. And so far back as I remember my father started what they call the Fair Employment Practice Committee. That was the Civil Rights Committee. That was started by my dad, John Hightower, Fred Tucker, Edgar Holt, Percy Gunman, and a few others. They got together and decided through the rules of Sharon Hall that they were going to get together and make a difference. Well, what happened is a train used to come across. If you guys remember, the train used to come across down by Antioch Church. Well, the blacks could not get to work on time at the Buick, so they were fired. So my dad met at Durant Hotel and threatened to strike R&R Railroad, the City of Flint, and Buick Motor Division. Out of that came what they promised to build to compensate the blacks of the North Side with an expressway. That expressway is now I-475. A lot of people do not know the history because they do not want nobody to tell them the truth. They want you to tell them what they want to hear. And because of the love that I have for God, He put these angels in my life and gave me a chance to let people know where it came from. I also remember my granddad. My granddad and Sister Hartfield's father were very close friends.
Amen.
New Zion Baptist Church was started, I believe, 1924-5. And the first pastor of New Zion Baptist Church was my granddad, who was the head of the deacon board. They started it on Michigan Avenue. And they named Sister Hartfield's father the first pastor. That was 1924-5. So I have a relationship with her and Dr. Hartfield, and my mother even played ball with Sister Hartfield. And I remember so many things about this wonderful Hartfield family. And Dr. Woody Etherly, my father thought he was his son. Because Woody used to give me orders and putting pamphlets on cars going down south. to get off the boat. We've got to get our kids off the boat. But our kids are not stupid, you guys. They see us doing wrong. So they ain't gonna listen to what we tell them to do. Because why would they? We're not doing it. So we have to get our educational system right. Sit down and have meetings like this so we can get this type of information in the schools. That's why I love the labor movement with my dear friend Brother Miller back here. Because they are coming together with me and teaching me, and because these young boys need a role model. And we need that so desperately. But you know what? Serving God is not popular to these young people. But you gotta get them to understand, if you don't have God, you don't have anything. And so I decided if I want them to understand that, I have to demonstrate it by doing something myself. So I am the president of UAW, Unity for Justice, the only black caucus that my dad started. And I am very proud to do it. Because if we don't help one another, we can't move forward. I'm so proud of Zion Baptist Church because that's where I got my start in helping people. And that's where my dad started. In working with the churches through the union. It got us all jobs, pensions, so forth and so on. How many in the room right now are receiving a pension or something from UAW, from General Motors? Isn't that a blessing? Because without the UAW, we wouldn't have anything. God bless you. Thank you for this opportunity. And if you would like to see some of these pamphlets afterward, I'd love to show you. I have the very first civil rights book that my dad left me in new condition. I guess he wanted me to be able to gain. God bless you.
Thank you, brother, on that. The black church and its involvement with the union, and a lot of our black union leaders, the former creeds, they all came out of the union, out of churches. They were members of churches. And any time a meeting had to handle some type of issue within the black community, the meeting place was the black church. The black church. Now, before we get too far, we sort of been Baptistic on our delivery. That's because all of us are Baptists. But out of the Baptist church, before I get too far, the Church of God in Christ evolved out of the Baptist church through Dr. Charles Mason. And I told you earlier that he was at one of our conventions, and he came in with one of them tambourines. The original Baptists, we don't like a lot of noise, but we don't make a lot of noise. But this fellow kept making noise that they told him to hush up. And since he didn't hush up, they excommunicated him, meaning they left him out. Charles Mason, but when he went out, he organized a church. But it was just a church of God. But when he got out there, he found out somebody else had a church of God. I told you earlier, the black church multiplied by division. We fall out, we go out and start another church. And that's how the churches that are present now became into fruition, especially Metropolitan Church. So just to let you know in respect, there are some other black churches. There are Macedonians out there, Vernon Chapel. I understand that Vernon Chapel was a mission outreach from Queen Chapel on St. John Street in Russell, Rhode Island. Yeah. But you tell some of them, that's the church that our mayor belongs to, Vernon. Vernon Chapel and Stanley and then Clacks and all the upper echelon. That's what they don't realize that they came out of the basement of a church on St. John Street. So I let them know that. That's history, y'all. But anyway, how much time we got?
It's 6:44, so about 40 minutes.
Oh, 6:44? All right then, let's keep going. How we doing on the camera? All right. We got Brother Hartfield reminded me about something. Did you want to do that now or later? Okay. Within our churches, to lead into that, the black church said before, the Buick Foundry was the reason why, the Buick manufacturing was the reason why the black population grew on the north end. As I said earlier, the early settlers here in the late 1800s and early 1900s settled on the south end of Flint. But when they built a factory on the north end of Flint, and then that's when across the track what we call the St. John Street area began to grow with churches over there. Shiloh Church came in the bend. Macedonia Church came in the bend. And each one of them evolved out of a church. Canaan Baptist Church came in the bend. Out of Canaan came Metropolitan Church. Out of Canaan also came Mount Calvary Baptist Church. And then out of those churches, out of Metropolitan, came New Zion Baptist Church. So, like I say, every time somebody get mad, we leave, start another church. And on the corner today, on the corner of Addison and North Street, there's a church there called the Holy Ghost Headquarters. That's right. Holy Ghost Headquarters, which was organized by used to be Baptists. When we get mad, we leave. We start over again. But we all are worshiping the same God. But Dr. Herman Strong, a little tidbit of history from Metropolitan, gave that name Metropolitan to that group of people who came out of Canaan in 1937. You know why they left? Because the church treasury was getting broke. There was no money to pay the leaking roof. No money in the centralized treasury. So the late T.L. Ballou said, all the ushers bring your money to the centralized treasury. All choir members bring your money to the centralized treasury. One thing in the Baptist church, each auxiliary had their own treasury. And that's the way we operated. Instead of fixing the roof, we went out to Powder's Lake and enjoyed ourselves. Or we went over to Flint Park amusement park and rode up and down in the Jackrabbit. We spent our monies elsewhere. That's what Brother Woody was talking about, economic development. We need to go back and develop that program so that we can have some money. But Metropolitan said, as I was saying, Dr. Strong, he named Metropolitan. You know why? Anybody here know why? How did y'all get y'all name, girlfriend? There you go. Thank you, sir. Dr. Strong was selling Metropolitan Insurance. And he came up out of all those names, Shady Grove, Second Baptist, North Baptist, First Baptist. They didn't say St. Paul Episcopalian for some reason. I mean, they couldn't mention it. They didn't mention it. Episcopalian.
Trademarks.
That'll work. But Dr. Gordon Strong, that was his son named Gordon. But Herman Strong, who was a Baptist at Metropolitan in that early group in 1936, left Canaan Baptist Church because the membership excommunicated the pastor because he wanted all the money to be in one treasure, centralized treasure. Metropolitan Baptist Church was organized on a centralized treasure concept. All monies from all auxiliaries come into the centralized treasure. And then when the light bill is due, it comes out of the treasure. When the water bill is due, it comes out of the treasure. When the pastor needs to be paid, it comes out of the treasure. If the roof leaks, it comes out of the treasure. So right back to them three winos, you got a nickel, and I got that. We'll get together and buy some wine. So if we put our monies together and become part of this North Flint Reinvestment Corporation that's existing today, this is an outlet for our churches to come together. As Brother Anthony said, there's power in numbers. And if we churches will come together like they used to, yeah, Pastor Robs threatened the banking system. The late Reverend Granville Smith threatened the banking system. Told him I'll pull all my money out of there. If you don't loan me the money to do what we want. And that's something we've got to do as black churches, period. Put our monies together that we will be able to grow and to have some work in our city.